Hello, everyone. Welcome to the UpRev Ninja podcast. If this is your first time listening, thanks for joining us. This show is produced each week with the single intent of discovering the tips, tricks, hacks, and lessons learned from our guests that has catapulted them into living the best version of themselves. Join your host, Tom Hudson, as he continues his search for the best methods to UpRev his life. Now, let's dive into the show.
Today's guest on the UpRev Ninja podcast is Jayden Hall, a 22-year-old Australian who's faced a lot of adversity so far in life. He's faced the death of his father, homelessness, and mental health issues. He's had quite a bit of transformation over the last few years, which he's going to share with us. Before this transformation, he was pretty angry and upset about the world, and it's shifted to a very optimistic outlook on life. Currently, he's a marketing manager, and he's working to launch his own clothing line in the next 12 months, which will be making contributions to charity. So without any further ado, welcome Jayden Hall to the UpRev Ninja podcast.
Hey, welcome Jayden Hall to the UpRev Ninja podcast. I've already read your bio to my audience. However, I'd love for you to tell us a bit about yourself.
Alright, so I'm 22 years old. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. I've completed a degree in media and communications. I'm now a marketing manager. My whole thing with my life is I've got this dream of moving everybody into this Arcadia, everyone finding their own Arcadia, everyone finding their own utopia, essentially. That comes from, I've gone through a little bit of adversity kind of thing, different stages throughout my life. I've been homeless. I've dealt with mental illness, and I've also, in 2013, I lost my father to a year-long battle with cancer, which, is never a fun experience, but these experiences shaped me to be a better person. And then when I saw your podcast, I wanted to get involved with that.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate your time today and, the story that you're going to be sharing with us. So, your bio, you kind of talked about, obviously, about your father, homeless, and just, some of the other struggles that you faced. Was this all kind of brought on all at the same time, or was it just kind of throughout your life?
So it was 2012 when Dad got diagnosed with cancer. Until then, I lived like this, not a perfect life, but a very easy kind of thing. You're running the mill, kind of going through high school. But the only thing I ever had to worry about was, if I could get the girl's number or, anything like that.
Absolutely.
And then 2012 happened. I was going through my year 12 to go through, or your senior year, I think you call it over there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was going through that, and I wanted to go to university and everything. And then I remember I was over in this a city that's nearby. Dad was in the hospital there, and I went over to see how he was, and he's like, "Oh, Jayden, I need to tell you something." And then I kind of had a funny feeling what it was going to be, and then he got diagnosed with cancer there, and then that was a long 12-month battle. It was pretty much 12 months to the day, to be honest. I think it was like 12 months and 6 days from when he was diagnosed to when he passed. And then from there, obviously, looking back, there was probably not enough done because it was a terminal cancer, that there's not enough done in terms to where we should be at financially moving forward and everything, which is fine. I understand everything like that. But and then as a result, losing one income stream, and then we had to sell a lot of assets to pay for treatment. And then as a result, rent, it became pretty tough for Mum to get through. And then I wasn't really able to help that much out with, sporting commitments. I played a fairly high level of basketball as well, and then, which I'll talk about a bit later as well. So that happened, and then obviously I went away to uni and everything, and then I was fine, and Mum was struggling in that. And then I went to come back to over summer, like for a 4 or 5 month period, from October to February, and pretty much there was nothing to really come back to. I remember the second day I was back, I was at this local caravan park, and Mum hadn't told me. I hadn't been home for probably a month and a half, going through my exams, and so I came home, and Mum was literally at this caravan park with and she was sleeping in a swag, and I was like, wow, yeah, right. So then yeah, for those 4 or 5 months, I was couch surfing and doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, like, there's a lot worse people out there in terms of homelessness and that. I was lucky that I had um, somewhere to crash a lot of the time. I did have grandparents around that I could stay with if I wanted to, but like seeing mum like that was pretty tough. And
Yeah.
then like it all felt like it all happened within 2 to 3 years kind of thing. Like from 2012 to 2016, I guess that was a pretty rough period for my life. But yeah, I'll go into that in further detail.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds like your life was, like you said, normal, average, high school, ending your 12th year, and then just got turned on a dime, upside down at the last minute. Um, and then you go to uni, you come back, and you see your mom, and she hadn't told you how bad things had got. How did that affect you? Like,
Um, I was like, as you can probably imagine, I had about 50,000 different things run from one side of my head to
I
the
can't
other.
imagine. No, I can't imagine.
It was tough. It was
Yeah.
tough. I was angry at myself for letting this happen, even though there probably wasn't. I was probably more angry at myself for not knowing, but at the same time, I had exams and everything. Like, not like it was just, I don't know. It hit me pretty hard.
Yeah.
Because the thing about my mum is like she's had it. She like if I've ever thought that I've had it rough, like my mum's done it 16 times harder, kind of thing. Like she's just lived this life that I like. I don't even know how she's the person that she is today. Like it's incredible. Um, and like she's just the nicest person ever. Hates confrontation. Like just incredible. And like the reason that she wouldn't have told anyone what was going on is because she didn't want people to, go out of their way to try and help her or anything like that.
Mhm.
And like that really, yeah, like when I think about that now, it's just like, whoa. So yeah, it had, I was probably angry and upset, but then it lit a fire in me too, which is another thing.
Yeah.
Because I think I think when, was it my lowest point? Not quite, but it was pretty well close to it. That really lit a fire in me to, I wanted to make a change. And then that's my whole thing with a clothing line that I'm trying to start up I'm in the process of starting and looking to launch by the end of the year, called Journey to Arcadia, which will focus on helping different areas of Australia. Like I'll focus on, I want to be able to donate money through, they purchase an item of clothing, 22% will go to a cause. So mental health, drug abuse, child abuse, domestic violence, and homelessness are all areas that I've either signed partners or looking to sign partners in the coming months
That's
to try and help
fantastic.
that.
That's fantastic. When did this? Obviously, I know what inspired you, but when did that light bulb go off? When did you like, oh, this is a way? You took that anger and you've channeled it into something positive. Like, when did you have that moment?
That moment, when did I have that moment? That moment came about when I was really drunk, actually. I was
Yeah.
very drunk, and I was talking to my best mate about how, like, ever since growing up, I've always had this need for my name to be remembered. Like, I just always wanted to leave a legacy of some sort. And then that kind of changed a little bit. Whereas, like, after, like, dad passed, I always said that I'm not a scientist, I'm not that way inclined, I'm never going to be the bloke that cured cancer.
Right.
So, all right, let's pump a heap of money into it. Let's find a way to make a heap of money, like for the research and everything. And then I did a bit of research with a few big charities throughout Australia, and just kind of looked at where their budget was going.
Hmm.
And I didn't agree with it. I didn't agree with it at all. Like, if you drive past the Cancer Council in Melbourne, you see about 16 Audis or
Yeah.
50 BMWs, and it's just like, all right, you're just making the rich richer here. And then I was like, you know what, I really think that there are some good people out there that are really trying to get the good work done. So I'd like to partner with them. Then it was a matter of, I've got a marketing background. I feel like I'm a pretty good marketer. What's a product that I can create and that I can create? And I love being kind of creative as well. And I always get the thing that, like, when you look good, you feel good. So I thought I'd try and create a clothing line that try to encompass all that all in one. So that came off in a conversation in probably about 15 minutes. It was
Oh,
an idea that
wow.
was born. Yeah, it was an idea that was born over a fair bit of vodka.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it's moments of clarity like that are all you need. It's remembering them the next day. It's the challenge.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's exactly right.
so you kind of mentioned sports earlier, basketball that you really enjoyed. And you said you would get to that later. How does that all fit in to the story?
Basketball's my release. And like
Okay.
for any listener, basketball's my release. I'm actually going to play basketball in about 3 or 4 hours, for a whole day, which I can't wait for. Um, for any listeners out there, I really encourage to have a release of some sort, whether it be reading. Like you need one. You need it for when things are just piled on top of you, absolutely piled on top of you, and you need to be able to just go to your place, whether it be your bed, reading a book, or for me, it was a basketball court.
That's great.
And I'd literally, if you would ask anyone from my town, I was known as the kid that would dribble a basketball or two around all day, every day. And like, it was just whenever I go on that court, I just feel this, I get this feeling of like, I'm home. Like this is where I'm supposed to be. Just me. Like my favorite days, when it's, 40 degrees, which is, that's dirty, stinking hot.
Right.
And I'm just on this outdoor court by myself and got a bit of music playing, and that's literally I'd do that every day if I could. It's just the best thing ever. Like, it's actually quite funny when I think about it. Whenever mum and dad fight, we
Yeah.
used to fight like when I was like 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, growing up. I'd go to the basketball court. I was like, oh, because it was close.
Right.
I'd go there, and then ever since then, whenever things happen, basketball's always been there to make me kind of happy and everything. It was funny the night that I found out that dad died, I got this phone call, and mum's told me, and I was like, and I just kind of walked outside and I was like, yeah, trying to process it all. And I went down to my room because I was at uni at the time, and they're like, oh, you can, like all my housemates were like, oh, do you want me to take you home? And I'm like, no, like I'm alright. And the only reason I stayed in the city that night was because I had a basketball grand final, and I just knew that if I went home, that I wouldn't be able to have this release. But there was this period I've just got the worst news of my life,
Right.
and I just knew that like for this hour and a half type thing, that I'd just be in this space of, I'd be comfortable. It felt like home.
Right.
So that's literally why I didn't go home. So that was a pretty, and like it was the strangest game of my life. I think I missed one shot and scored like 34 points, and I was like, yeah, this ain't right. It was weird, but it was really good. It was really good.
You're just in the zone. Like, yeah. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Wow. So obviously, this was a pretty traumatic time during your life. The 2012 to 2016 with all this, your father passing, finding out your mother, and just all the stuff going on. What about like other, just in general? What do you feel that's kind of held you back in the past? I don't know. Like trying to be the best version of yourself, right? Do you have like fear, shame? Is it there's something that's always kind of held you back? Because it sounds like you've taken this moment and you've launched and you've catapulted. You're starting a clothing line. You're going to donate to charities that are important to you. You've done research. Like you're crack-a-lacking right now. So what's held you back in the past?
Two things probably. I think that analysis paralysis is probably a major thing. This is probably a major thing. For anyone that doesn't really know what that is, it's like I need things to be perfect
Right.
a lot of the time, and I won't begin putting things in place because I don't think it's perfect, and like I won't be open about everything. I was never open about anything because I didn't think it was perfect. Like I'd never I coming from a media and communications background, like as a journo, I never wanted to publish anything, never wanted to publish any of my writing because I didn't think it was perfect. Like I think, oh yeah, it's good, but it's not perfect. In terms of professionally, that was a major thing that really held me back. And it wasn't until I met my mentor kind of thing, that she really helped me get over that. But the other thing too is that really held me back was I had anxiety pretty bad, and I still kind of get it.
Yeah.
Where I talked about basketball being a release, but there'd be only certain things that I'd do because I only felt comfortable doing them. In terms of, there's a period there, like, I mean, I literally, all I'd do would be I'd go play basketball, or I'd stay in bed, or like, like just places where I felt really comfortable, and I wouldn't
Right.
really push myself to do anything besides these things that, aren't really solving issues. I never really wanted, I was anxious, but I was probably anxious about hitting the problem on the head. That's probably the biggest thing that held me back.
Yeah.
Whenever there was an issue, I'd probably find a way to go around it instead of going straight through it. Yeah.
It's avoidance, and you actually mentioned earlier about your mother was didn't like confrontation, so you picked that up in your own way, I guess. So
Yeah, no, yeah, completely. There was something that I've definitely got through with at the moment. Got through as a matter. That was just my experiences evolving me. I think that really changed that. If I don't deal with these problems, they might not grow quickly around me, but they'll sure as hell grow. And you don't want to deal with the bigger problems down the line when your back's against the wall.
right. Well, I was super happy to hear that you had a mentor kind of pushed you through that, and just the importance. Was there a certain piece of advice that she gave you, or even someone other than your mentor, that just it's like a really solid piece of advice that you took to heart, and you're like, that's it, and you kind of have carried that along with you?
Yeah, it was a different person, and this was and they wouldn't have realized how much impact this one phrase has meant to me. It was a coach that I had when I was playing football, and it would have been under, I was young.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly. I was young. And during one of the little speeches, they just said, dare to dream.
Oh, yeah.
Dare to dream. And I've always, that's been my mantra from when I was young through to now. Like, I don't ever want to hit that plateau. I never want, like, I think the worst day for me mentally would be the day that I achieve everything that I want to achieve, because I always like to look like I want something to work forward to, and I've got big goals. I got really big goals, and it's just like when you have something to work for,
Right.
I feel like life's easier. When you don't have something to work for, life just, you get into a period where there's no passion. And I went through that period, and that's probably when I hit my real dark time of my life. That's probably, when I had no passion, that was when I was at my worst.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. I think always having something to strive for, a challenge, always constantly learning, a passion. I think that keeps us youthful as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. What about you mentioned how important basketball is to you and how it's a release. Do you have any other and you swore by that. You actually said that when I mentioned it earlier. You said it's imperative that you have a way to release. Do you have any other methods that you use, like meditation or journaling? I have to assume basketball is like meditation for you.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much what that is, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I write goals down. I always have goals. I mean, if I look around my room now, I can see 1, 2, 3 different goals that I have that it's written on a piece of paper within my walls or within the door of my closet. Like, I like to have, these goals that I want to achieve in viewpoint. That, like, even when I'm not taking any notice of them, my brain's taking notice of them.
Is there a goal that's up there that you could share with us? I would love to hear something that you've got written up there if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, that's completely fine. One's just literally to launch Journey to Arcadia within 12 months.
Fantastic.
Dated May 14th,
All right.
2007. So with hopefully come May 14th next year, we're launching. We're launching. That's the plan.
I'll follow up with you a week before. Find out how things are
perfect.
going. you won't get back to me because you'll be so busy. Hopefully not playing basketball.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see how we go though. Yeah, I think that's
okay. No,
you need those
awesome.
releases. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's great to have goals written out, especially where you see them like that. I mean, some people write them in journals and then you don't see them ever again. But we all process things differently, so I like that.
Yeah.
So you're in marketing. You've gone through a lot at this point. You're looking at launching this business in the next 11 months at this point, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've read a ton of books and blogs, and you've listened to a lot of things. Is there something out there that's just kind of stuck in your head, like that's really kind of been pivotal for you, that it's almost like your Bible, a book that you recommend?
A book that I recommend.
Yeah, or something that really influenced you.
There's a TED Talk that I watch. Called Adversity. I can't remember the speaker. It's a woman. I can't remember it. Adversity isn't a bad thing.
Okay.
It's an incredible speech that whenever I do feel down about the trials and tribulations that I go through, like I do watch it, and like it gives you a bit of perspective. And that watching that really changed my viewpoint with everything. Really, the first time I was a bit all over the place. And I was really feeling sorry for myself. But then I kind of think back. I remember thinking back, you know what, I'm a better person now. Like, I went through this. I'm a lot stronger than I was beforehand. And I feel like adversity's got this really bad name in terms of, the word itself doesn't sound like a nice word. But it's your experiences that make you a better person. It gives you, when you hit your rock bottom, and my rock bottom was pretty rock bottom, which I will talk about in a second.
Yeah.
When you're at that level, you have the chance to build yourself back up through, and I don't think anything but adversity gives you that opportunity to become such a better person. So, like, while adversity is, you never want anyone that you care about, that you love, to go through all these horrible things. If they do, because people go through adversity no matter what.
Right.
You hope that it doesn't break them.
Mm-hmm.
You can go two ways with it. It either breaks you or it makes you, I feel.
Right.
And you really pray that it doesn't break them. Because when you're at your rock bottom, when everyone's rock bottoms are completely different, and you're staring down the barrel, you have two ways to go. And it's just, it's a powerful thing. Adversity really is a powerful thing. So I encourage everyone out there to watch this TED Talk.
Okay. Yeah, and I can definitely put that in the show notes. It mentioned about how you used to, for years, you had got to a very angry and upset place. However, you had a paradigm shift and a change in the way you approached life, and you've become a lot more optimistic. What was that shift? I mean, you kind of talked about it with this TED Talk, but what made that transformation for you?
All right. That's a really good question. All right. So, for me to answer that, I've kind of got to tell another story, I guess.
That's okay. Yeah.
I was in my second year at uni. This is probably 8 months after Dad had passed, and I was at this really, really bad place. Like, I had no passion for everything, and like even growing up, like I've always had passion of some sort. Whether it was like I was 7 years old, I used to be obsessed with Egypt. Then I went through an animal phase, and then from about 10 onwards, it was basketball. And then for these 2 year, 2014, 2015, I didn't even play basketball kind of thing. I hardly shot. Like every now and then, I might go down with my mate or two, but I didn't get that same feeling. And I was at home one night, and everything was just on top of me. I was at home, and I remember there was construction workers at the front of the house, and home being like the share house I was in with Two blokes, really good people. But they were out for tea, and I didn't really tell them about what I was going through. Like they knew that I was still a different person than I was when I first met them. But I think everyone is. And these construction workers ended up turning the power off because they had to fix through something. They had to fix something which. And I was in this dark room. I remember thinking, and at that stage, I think I had about $2.40 in my bank account, no food, which was just a common occurrence, and all got to me really bad that night. Like I was hysterical with tears, and then I was angry, and then I don't know how many of you out there have seen 13 Reasons Why, but there's a pretty graphic scene in the final, the finale, in which the lead character, Hannah Baker, she's talking about her own suicide. Well, I was close to having a moment that replicated that. Like I literally had a hot bath running.
Yeah.
Like you, I was really, really close. And then I don't know what triggered. I don't know if it was a change of noise. Like I can't remember exactly. There was something I thought I remember having the thought from going from this. It was a rapid change. It was like going from this. You can't go on like this is absolutely fucked. Like to this isn't who you are. How do you fix this problem?
Right.
There was something that triggered that in my mind, and like I don't know what set that off exactly, to be honest. But from then I was like, well, what's the biggest issue in your life at the moment? Is it where you're living? Like, is it where you're living? Like, yeah, you got really good people around you, but like I felt like I was on the outer at that stage too. And is that like, do you not like Bendigo? Like, is that not too much of a like Bendigo's just a big country town, and I come from a small country town essentially.
Okay.
Like, do I need to go to a city? And I was like, am I not passionate about teaching anymore? Do I not want to be a teacher? And later that night, the next morning, I applied to be a journo in Melbourne, and then I moved to Melbourne, and that was probably the biggest thing that ever changed my life. It was literally within 2 hours.
Oh wow! Okay.
It literally would have been in 2 to 3 hours. Like this all happened while my other two housemates were out for tea.
Wow. Okay. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So no, go on.
That was like my mind frame changed there. Then that day, that's pretty much all I was going to say.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's it's crazy when you're going down one path, and it seems like you've been going down a certain path for days, weeks, months, years, and then all of a sudden it's a literal flip of a switch. I mean, you said within a couple of hours all of this changed, and it's amazing how our minds work like that.
I've spoken about that before, to a couple of close friends and that, but I don't think anyone realizes how close it was to this conversation not happening. Like, it was probably minutes away kind of thing. Like, and I don't know if it was, a plate dropped next door or something. Like, if there was a noise that triggered it, I don't know. It was pretty crazy. And ever since then, I've kind of lived my life that way. Is fixing problems.
So, what about experiences? I mean, have you ever had an experience that outside of that experience, but that you would recommend? Something that's pretty pivotal to you. If you grew up like in the country and then moving to Melbourne, now you're in the city. I don't know. We all have different experiences that have influenced us that we can wish, like, ooh, if everyone did this, they would be a better person, or it would help them discover themselves. Do you have anything like that?
Sure, I do. Yeah. When I first moved, obviously I've been to Melbourne a fair bit. It's only 3-4 hours away from my hometown. The second day I was there, I went straight into the city and just sat there. I think I grabbed a coffee and just sat, and I looked for the busiest spot that I could find. And, a lot of people probably wouldn't like the feeling, but I loved the feeling of being overwhelmed by everything. Like, like just realizing that you're a part of this puzzle kind of thing. I look at the world as if it was a puzzle and you're a piece to help it become a better place. And then you've obviously got broken pieces that are, not fixing the puzzle at all. But, maybe you can kind of change that. But in terms of an experience that I'd recommend to everyone, go out there. And I know this is so cliche.
No.
Go out there and face your biggest fear. Like, I don't mean if that's, professionally, mentally, or if it's just, I'm scared of heights. I'm terrified of heights.
Right.
But I hate them. I watch videos on Facebook of people jumping from building to building, and my palms get sweaty. That's how bad I am.
Yeah. I've seen.
Yeah, I'm also like that with birds. I don't like birds either. But so every now and then I'll go and stand on there's the Eureka Sky Deck, which in Melbourne, which is a really tall building. I'll go at the top there. It makes me feel uncomfortable, but like that second, those few seconds where you're out there and you're like, whoa, this is scary. Whoa, this is scary.
Yeah.
I feel like you're growing. So it's like I get this thing where I just want to challenge my fears. I did this when I was going through journalism, that I posted an article straight to my Facebook, and on Facebook I'm a bit of an idiot. I carry on a little bit, bit of a smart ass kind of thing. Don't take myself too seriously on social media. My Twitter's literally just shout outs to Anna Kendrick because I'm in love with Anna Kendrick. But I posted an article out there and it got like that. I was so scared. I was so scared, man. I was like, what if this negative criticism? What if they criticize? What if they think this is stupid?
Right.
But then, as soon as I posted it and got it up there, it only took one piece of positive feedback, and I was like, you know what? This analysis paralysis thing is just a load of crap. I'm not going to let what I think people are going to think of me dictate my life anymore. So I think just tackle your fears.
I think, it's completely agree with you. And you just said something about when you posted that article out there, your friends, they know that person, they know you, and your social media, you're not putting that out there. So I bet you when they saw that article, they're like, finally we get to see, Jayden. And so I'm sure it was super positive.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good. It was really good feedback.
So, I mean, there's a lot of growth. You're talking about continual growth. You go up to this tall building and it makes your palms sweat. You watch YouTube videos of heights. I mean, that stuff freaks me out too. What do you what are you working on right now? Trying to where are you trying to get over or accomplish right now? Trying to make yourself better.
I think the biggest thing for me is I'm still trying to tackle anxiety. And finding triggers that make me anxious. Money's made me anxious for a fair bit of time. Going, obviously my financial situation hasn't been great previously. Just making sure with money management, all that kind of thing. But also getting into a routine, I found has really helped that. So but I'm still in the process of establishing the ideal routine for me as well. Combining exercise, work, family, friends, commitments kind of thing.
Right.
At first I was like, I used to be the kind of person who just be like, I'll do this whenever I want kind of thing. When that comes up. But now, I think that I'm currently trying to work into a routine in which I cover all my bases. That's what I'm really doing at the moment, trying to get myself organized as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. What about personal habits that you feel that contribute to your growth? I mean, you mentioned the goals that you have written on the walls. Do you have other habits that you feel make you grow?
Exercise, to be honest. I feel like when you're seeing your body transform, I think that's the easiest way to kind of visualize personal growth, personal development, and it also helps get into a routine. I feel like when I first joined the gym, all I wanted to do was you know, keep going back to be able to see, you know, all this weight that I'm dropping and all that kind of thing. And it's good to be able to just, you know, check off goals. I like goals. I'm a very goal-oriented person. What other small habits do I have? Eating healthy. Talking to loved ones and having hard conversations regularly.
Yeah.
Is something that, when I say hard conversations, I mean it wasn't until when Dad was going through cancer I ever, you know, told people that I loved them and all that kind of thing. It's probably a habit of something like I call my grandparents most days, letting them know that, you know, which just lets you and your family kind of grow together and grow closer and really cherish what you're going through.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, time is the one resource you can't make more of, and it's finite. So I think once you have that realization, you do start to prioritize and organize your life differently. So, well, wow, this has been fantastic. You've shared a lot of, you know, a really good story, and I really appreciate, you know, just your vulnerability. I mean, this has been really good. Is there anything that we haven't really talked about that you wanted to, you know, share with us?
Anything we haven't talked about? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, actually. When you're at your lowest moment, a lot of different emotions come through your head. And like when I say your lowest moment, like, so when you're at your rock bottom period of your life, you know, as I said earlier, everyone's going to go through a period which is the hardest period of their life. They might not realize they're going through it and whatever. There's a lot of different emotions that you go through. And I probably handled it the wrong way for a long time there, where I was a very angry person.
Yeah.
I was a very, very angry person. And like even I didn't realize how angry I was, like talking back to my friends and stuff. And like I've always thought I was a pretty jovial kind of person. But you know, they're like, yeah, no, dude, like you were just different for that period of time. Like you were just different. And then like even my grandmother was saying, like, and Mum will always tell me that like during that time period, like you were just very angry. Anyway, I remember going past I was driving past my maths teacher and I was like, yeah, can I have a chat with you? And he's like, yeah, all right. Like we had a chat. Like he does a lot of kinesiology and all that kind of stuff. And I never really believed in kinesiology.
Yeah.
Until this experience. And he kind of did all these little tests, like, you know, would put his hand on my shoulder and all this different stuff to find out whether there's energy. And like Mr. Taylor, he's not a big man or by any stretch, but like he touched this one part of me that signifies that I had a lot of rage going through me. And he put his hand over mine. I couldn't raise mine up. He'd ask, you know, he'd try and push.
Right.
He'd push it down. Like he'd push my arm down and like he's a small man. And I'm like, I should be a lot stronger than him. And yeah, I could do it with every other part. But as soon as he touched that, he was like, yeah, you got a lot of rage going through you.
Wow.
So we sat there talking. Yeah, it was crazy. It was so crazy. So we sat there talking for about 4 hours, just about everything that made me angry. Like, you know, and they did all the same test kind of thing. And like he'd say something, and then if it's what, you know, the trigger was, it would make my arm go down.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't be able to hold it back up. Anyway, we got to the point where we sussed out that I was angry about losing my old man and that, and I hadn't really talked to anyone.
Yeah.
And that's where it got to the point of, like, I'd always just tried to be there for everyone. Like when it initially happened, I was trying to be there for everyone else as opposed to letting myself have someone there for me.
Right.
So really two things that I really wanted to kind of stress is that when you're grieving, make sure, like when you go through a period in which you need to grieve, make sure that you grieve. You know, because it can just it can do so much damage to you if you don't grieve. Like my grandfather didn't grieve properly and he developed an organic dementia.
Yeah.
In which he was just kind of all over the joint, which he's grown out of now and he's completely fine, which is great. that he didn't grieve, and that's what really messed him up. And the second point is just talk to people.
Right.
Have those conversations. If you're ever struggling with something, or if you're feeling angry or upset, overwhelmed, anxious, hurt, like swallow your pride and talk to people. Because if you can't continue to feel that way about yourself, we're only on this planet an average of, I think for a male is about 80.7 years. Why spend any longer than you have to being like that, being upset?
Yeah.
Like, speak to people. There's always someone there that's going to listen.
Absolutely. Oh no, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So, kind of just to wrap things up, I usually end this with if there's something that you're working on that you want to share, kind of promote. I know you've got your clothing line. Obviously, if you don't have anything up yet, come back in a few months. Let me know, and I can put the link in the show notes and stuff like that. But is there anything that you'd like to share that you're currently working on?
I'll just talk a little bit about Journey to Arcadia, if that's
Perfect.
okay.
Yeah, perfect.
So I touched on it briefly, but Journey to Arcadia is literally the name itself kind of sums up what I want to do. Like everyone's got a different version of utopia, but I don't think that cancer or homelessness or child abuse or any of the causes I'm really trying to fight is part of this utopian archaic society. Which is something I think we can all agree on.
Yeah.
And the aim is to literally trying to find ways to everyone to get to their Arcadia. Is that a realistic thing? It remains to be seen. But I think it's a clothing line that's got some pretty good people involved. That's really just looking to not change the world, but make small changes in everybody's world. I think that's the biggest thing for it.
Okay. Yeah, no. All right,
Okay.
no. So
check it out whenever. Yeah, everyone that's listening, check it out, and hopefully in the coming months.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds exciting, and I'm really happy how you took that, that experience that you went through, and what you saw, and how you've turned it around into something positive that's also going to influence other people's lives in a positive way. I think that's absolutely fantastic. So, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Jayden. Well, it was, I can't believe, 45 minutes have already come and gone, but I think that was, fantastic. So again, thanks for your time and, for being a guest on the show.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you very much.
There's a lot of good content in this episode, and it was difficult for me to isolate the 3 items I wanted to walk away with. However, I think that, the first one really is around his use of basketball. He talks about this, and, there's a lot of content in self-improvement and self-development that, we always talk about journaling and meditation, yet it doesn't have to be any of those. For me personally, I really enjoy journaling, but I do CrossFit, and I use that as a release. The second item that he talks about is perfectionism. He mentioned analysis paralysis. That can be stifling to a person. And so it's good to see how he got through that. And obviously just realizing it is the biggest challenge. And then the final thing is just his use of routines and how that's helped him, and it's gave him confidence and has propelled him forward. What were your key takeaways from this episode?
Thanks for listening to the UpRev Ninja podcast with your host, Tom Hudson. Navigate to our website at uprev.ninja today, where you will find additional resources to help you discover the best version of you. While you're there, join our newsletter and join the discussion on your favorite social media platforms. We've got some awesome guests lined up to share with us how they are becoming the best versions of themselves. Again, thank you for listening. Now it's time to go out and uprev your life.